Hello, everybody, and welcome to Grand Slam KBO, our weekly podcast on the Korean Baseball League. On this week's episode, we look at the two new foreign players who will soon make their KBO debut. SK Wyverns released pitcher Nick Kingham. There are no immediate plans to bring back fans, despite our excitement last week, but we discussed what the league had in store. There's Hall of Fame Week 4 and our predictions for the week ahead. We're on Twitter at Grand Slam KBO and at Chimek Baseball. There's a new Twitter account coming up soon as well. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube. Just search for Grand Slam KBO. Matthew, hello.
Hello. It's been a long week. Lots of extra inning games, and don't know about you, but I'm still feeling the effects of that meetup from yesterday.
Yeah, a long week that started for us really on Tuesday. We'll definitely have a quick chat about that in a second. And then as Matt was saying, this is Matthew Kerr at Chimek Baseball. As Matthew was saying, we had a nice day out yesterday in Seoul, watched some games in a bar in the middle of the city. And yeah, it was good. It was a good day. We can thank everybody a bit for that too. Bradley Hyder also joins us today. Hello, Bradley.
Hello, happy Sunday, guys.
Happy Sunday.
I will echo Matthew's comments about the exciting evening yesterday. I got to see some people that I knew and meet some people that I didn't. So by the end of the evening, I knew everyone, and it was a great overall experience.
So as I said at the introduction there, at Grand Slam KBO is my Twitter handle. Matthew goes by at Chimek Baseball. But Bradley has finally joined the Twitter world. What is it, Bradley?
Finally.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk about this Twitter thing, and I've done a lot of research and have determined it's probably not going away. So I thought I would enter my hat into the Twitter sphere and see what happened. And I made some connections with some interesting people, none of whom I know, but I look forward to interacting with in the future.
What is your Twitter handle?
I believe it is, correct me if I got this right, if I got it wrong, at Grand Slam Hyder, Hider, all one word.
Okay, so
that I believe is correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At Chimek Baseball, at Grand Slam KBO, and at Grand Slam Hyder. You can find the three of us on Twitter. Please get in touch, be friends of our show. Send us messages, tag us, whatever, retweet some stuff. And yeah, we'd love to get in touch with you if you want to get in touch with us as well. Before we go any further, I just want to say a quick word of appreciation to ESPN for inviting the three of us to contribute to their live telecast of Kim Heroes versus Doosan Bears last Tuesday. It was it was a great honor for us to be there, and we thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. What added to that experience, though, was hearing from baseball fans all over the world on Twitter, YouTube, and by email. We've had offers for collaborations on different podcasts and such work, and we'd be absolutely delighted to work with other podcasts in the near future, so please get in touch. Guys, what did you make of your big screen debuts on Tuesday?
I had a lot of fun talking to Carl Revich and Eduardo Perez. Like, they're really nice people. They asked some really good questions, and I think they just genuinely love the game of baseball, and they're happy to be sharing a new world of that with everyone else. That's kind of what we always wanted to do when we set this up 3 years ago, where we just want to push on, make sure that we share the love of Korean baseball with other people, and then start spreading knowledge about it. So it's really nice to see them doing that, and I like the way that they're able to participate and make themselves vulnerable in the fact that they aren't experts on it, and they're just learning as they go with it. And honestly, I have listened to quite a lot of the early ESPN broadcasts and the most recent ones, and they've been improving week by week. So I'm really excited to see what happens going forward with them, and hopefully they'll have us on again to talk about some other stuff in the future.
Yeah. Bradley, what did you make of it all?
I thought it was such an interesting experience, guys. That was the first time that I was on live television since my local TV channel when I was 12 years old in Hamilton, Ontario. I thought it was really cool just watching how they interviewed us and the guests that preceded us. And I think what I want to do now is watch them more in a different light, those guys, to see the professionals in action, and maybe learn from some of the things that make them successful, in hopes that I could apply that to our podcast when we have guests on in the future. But to echo what Matthew said again, I look forward to speaking with them in the future, hoping that we can bring some of our insight to their listeners and their viewers.
If you're listening, yes, I agree. I agree with all that. Is there anything maybe you guys wanted to say, but you didn't have the time or the opportunity to do so? Anything you'd like to have added in, Matthew?
Yeah, I would have loved to have talked a little bit more about like Korean baseball history, because that's kind of one of my massive interests. I'm a big fan of the hats, the uniforms, and such like that. And given it was a Kyum Heroes game, I actually had a set of uniforms lined up next to me, but then it never really came up, so I never got a chance to talk about them. But I'd have loved to have just kind of shared what I do with the tier lists. And we've got one of those coming out next week for the Samsung Lions with special guest Thomas St. John sometime next week, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday. But I'd have loved to have shared a couple of those uniforms with the guys on ESPN and let them learn a bit more about what the teams used to wear back in the day compared to what they do nowadays, because there's a lot of interesting stuff to cover there.
Absolutely. Hyder, last thoughts on ESPN for you?
I was happy with everything the way it went. I don't think, looking back, I would have changed any of their questions. I would have liked to have tweaked a few of my responses, but I went to bed with a smile on my face, and I've had a lot of positive feedback from friends and family. I wouldn't change a thing on my end.
Great. It's good to hear all that. And then, as mentioned before, we had a nice day out yesterday at a bar called Nogari here in Seoul. We got Danny Kurtz helped a lot, did a lot of tweeting on our behalf, set up this nice little picture of the My KBO logo, the Grand Slam KBO logo, the time, the place, and what we were doing. And yeah, I thought we had a good day yesterday. There was ridiculous amounts of beer, of course, were consumed, and chicken was eaten. So no complaints, I'd say, from the bar staff either. I'd say they loved having us there. Hopefully they did. Did you guys enjoy your Saturday afternoon in Muledong?
Absolutely loved it. It was great meeting new people. Some of the people I already knew there, some of the people I didn't, as Ida said before. But for me, it was just great hearing other people's stories and like hearing their background in the game, how they grew up with it, how they knew about all of these old players, or how they were brand new to the league and just wanted to learn more about it. Like, it was great seeing that kind of interaction between so many people in the game that just would otherwise maybe not have had the chance to meet up. So yeah, again, thank you very much to Danny Kurtz and the My KBO community for joining us and just sharing the love of the game.
Absolutely. Shall we get cracking, guys? We're going to start by reviewing how the 10 teams in the KBO did over the past 6 days of baseball. It'll be just myself and Matt doing it this week, so I will give you the honors, Matthew. Who would you like to lead off with?
Well, I think I'll lead off with the Doosan Bears because they've had a bit of a weird week. Like, the Bears continue to split moments of dominance with KBO-style meltdowns. Like, this week they went 3-3 and ended up losing second place to now the second place Kyum Heroes. Like, they had a narrow win via walk-off against the Hanwha Eagles on Friday with runs scored in the 8th and 9th innings that basically prevented them from dropping to 2-4 in the week. They're now 5.5 games back from first, and like, I think pitching consistency has been the biggest problem for them. Like, sometimes they'll be dominant, sometimes not, and today or this week they've shipped 18 runs out of the bullpen against the Heroes and then shut Hanwha out via the bullpen. And that literally was the difference between winning and losing each series. So if they want to mount a challenge for top spot going forward, they're going to have to be more consistent.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I will lead off with the useless Kia Tigers. Why not? What looked like being a perfect week for the playoff chasing Tigers turned into an absolute nightmare on Sunday. Kia's bullpen blew a seemingly unassailable 5-run lead in the ninth to lose their series in Changwon against the NC Dinos. They have now lost 8 straight Sunday games. Taking both games against Hanwha midweek is irrelevant when you can't see out games like today. Played 5, won 3.
Next up would be the LG Twins. It's been a very long week for them, with 2 of their games going to extra innings, including a 12th inning walk-off loss to the Samsung Lions in Daegu, which temporarily saw them drop out of the playoff spots for the first time this season. Maybe that was kind of a rude awakening for them, though, because after that, they managed to finish the week strongly, reclaiming the 5th spot from Samsung Lions after a 7-3 win today. Defensively, they've looked sound, and they've managed to make a contest of every game this week, but they've managed to give up a total of 100 hits and walks combined between KT and Samsung this week. So if they're going to really continue pushing on and not miss out on the 4th and 5th place spots to Samsung and Kia come October, they're really going to have to tighten up their pitching.
Cool. Samsung Lions. A sloppy end to a really good week for the Lions at their Daegu home this week. Firstly, SK Wyverns were swept before LG were sent packing 2-1. Saturday's win was the closest we've come to a tie game this season, but Samsung won via walk-off walk in the 12th inning. One of the KBO's form baseball teams right now this week played 6, won 5.
The Lotte Giants are continuing their established tradition of forgetting how to hit on the days that their foreign starters take the mound. They lost the midweek series to NC and the weekend series at home against the SK Wyverns, 2 double plays in the 8th and 9th innings, killing any hope of pulling back today's game and rounding out a 2-4 week for the Giants. Unable to win more than 3 games in a week since early June, the last time they played Hanwha in a series. Lotte continuing a slow and steady descent down the rankings and are looking less and less like playoff contenders by the week, despite Ideho and Sonasop putting up some really strong offensive numbers over the last month.
Right on. Kiam Heroes, a good start to the week for Kiam, who beat defending champions Doosan Bears 2-1 at Gochuk. Seen by many as a potential championship decider, the series was really high scoring, with both teams splitting 49 runs over the 3 games. The Heroes then traveled down Subway Line 1 for the weekend series in Suwon and lost 2 games, including a walk-off loss on Friday. This week, Kiam played 6, won 3.
The misery continues for the Hanwha Eagles fans this week. They started the week by getting rained out on Tuesday. Then they managed to start strongly on Wednesday and actually threatened to take the first game in Gwangju, but 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th to walk it off kind of set the pace for them this week. They'd go on to lose Game 2 in Gwangju before traveling to Jamshil, where poor performances out of the bullpen saw them lose the lead twice against the Doosan Bears. With 2 walk-off losses during the week, one against Doosan, one against Kia, and a 1-4 record this week, the Eagles did look offensively dangerous, and against a weak Lotte Giants offense, they may be eagerly looking forward to returning to Daejeon and getting ready for Tuesday's series against the struggling Giants.
NC Dinos, table-topping Dinos won both series at home this week, but that only tells part of the story. They lost games 1 to Lotte and Kia before rebounding back to take games 2 and 3. On Sunday, NC were trailing 6-1 in the 9th, but 2 home runs and a triple later. They won 7-6 to condemn the Tigers to another Sunday loss. This week for the NC Dinos, played 6, won 4.
And finally, the KT Wiz on my side of things. Despite outscoring opposition 39-27 this week, the Wiz only managed to pick up 4 victories in their games. They narrowly missed out on a 5th, thanks to an extra inning walk-off for the LG Twins. With victories against LG and the Heroes in the bag, though, the Wiz are making a very strong contention case for playoff competition later in the season. Their bullpen's been improving and has gotten over some of the hiccups in consistency, and their offense lately has just been on fire. So with series coming up against Kia and Samsung next week, this is a very good chance for them to cement their position and establish a berth for themselves in the playoff scene.
And finally, the SK Wyverns. The Wyverns are just limping towards the conclusion of the 2020 season, but still found time to win a series in Busan at the weekend. They were swept in Daegu by the Samsung Lions, but won on Friday and Sunday against Lotte Giants. Having released opening day starter Nick Kingham, Wyverns fans will be hoping for some good news with his replacement if he is announced this coming week. Played 6, 1-2 for the Incheon-based SK Wyverns. And when all is said and done, this is what the current table looks like. Gentlemen, NC Dinos maintained their lead over everybody else at the top of the table. We've seen some changes in the chasing pack. The LG Twins were outside of the playoffs 24 hours ago. They now find themselves in 4th. The Kia Tigers are back to where they spent most of the year in 5th. And the KT Wiz have jumped ahead of the Lotte Giants into 7th spot. Final thoughts on the current table before we move on to the news. Anybody have anything to say?
I said it before. Don't count the Samsung Lions out. They have proven themselves time and time again. They were just barely over 500 this time last week, and now they're 7-3 in their last 10. So that's definitely someone you want to be looking at in the midsection of the table.
Indeed, they've had a.
Sorry, Mac, what?
Yeah, they've had a lot of stabilizing force brought in since Oh Seung-won returned to them, and even though he hasn't been stellar on the mound himself during his performances, just his presence and his guidance is definitely leading to improvements in the rest of the Samsung bullpen. Plus, I think that their offense has had a couple of seasons to develop, and they've really got a strong grounding now for going forward and pushing towards a playoff position.
Yeah, absolutely. And like speaking of form, Samsung Lions and KT Wiz have the best form in the league over the last 10 games or so. 1-7, lost 3 for both of them. The 3 teams directly above them, the 2 teams from Jamshul, Doosan Bears and LG Twins and the Kia Tigers, are not exactly pulling up trees at the moment. So with the fixtures that are coming up, which we'll discuss at the end of the show, both of those 2 teams have a magnificent opportunity to jump into the playoff spot. So that's how the current table looks at the moment. The Dinos still lead. They're 4 games clear of the Kiam Heroes. The Tigers are holding on to the last playoff spot just about over the Samsung Lions, with the KT Wiz now up to 7. Guys, let's have a talk about some of the main news stories there for this week. Bradley Hyder has decided to take a quick look at the 2 new foreign players who are either in quarantine or about to join quarantine or about to come out of quarantine at the moment. So can you tell us about Hanwha Eagles and Kiam Heroes 2 new pickups, please, Bradley?
Okay, well, let's go alphabetically by last name, and that would have Brandon Barnes, who we've seen pictures of his arrival at Incheon International Airport. He is a 34-year-old Californian outfielder. Had a bit of tour in the MLB, playing for teams including the Astros, the Rockies, and the Indians. Last year, he didn't play in 2019, so I don't have much data to go on for that. But his last season was in 2018 when he played for the Indians. He had 19 at-bats and batted an average of .263. One of his notable career highlights was that in 2013, Mr. Barnes hit for the cycle. So that is what we have to look forward to. He's posted a video online expressing a real keen interest in playing for his team and getting acquainted with Korean culture. So be sure to follow Mr. Barnes. Next up on the list, and we've spoken briefly about this gentleman before, is Addison Russell. He is a 26-year-old Floridian. He has played second base and shortstop. He has had a famous career playing for both the All-Star team and winning a World Series championship in 2016. Last year, he spent some time with the Iowa Cubs while coming off a suspension. And last year in the big leagues, 2019, he played 82 games and hit for an average of .237. So that's what we have for Mr. Russell.
Okay, well then, Matt, I'll just ask you here, with all due respect to Mr. Barnes and the Hanwha Eagles, the pickup of Addison Russell looks potentially season-defining for the Team Heroes. We all expected them to go well this season. They made it as far as the Korean series last season before they got swept by Doosan Bears, but they're already a really good team, second in the table. Where does Russell fit into their lineup? What position is he going to play? And secondly, do you think that this is the sort of pickup with that amount of Major League experience that could propel a team like the Heroes into not just genuine Korean series contenders, but perhaps the overall favorites?
I think it does actually have that potential. Like, you look at one of the major issues with the Heroes in the last few years, it's been that somebody somewhere gets injured. This is going to give them a lot more depth to rely on in their squad. And it's also going to allow them just to rotate people as and when they need to, because Addison Russell can play second, he can play short. So he can basically go through all the positions that he needs to and give guys a day off. So Kim Ha-sung, if he needs a day off, he can have it. So Gong-chan, he's not getting any younger. He can use that day off as well. But in terms of day-to-day, if they're fielding their best players, I would say that Russell probably takes over at second and Song Gong-chan takes over a spot permanently on the DH. And then maybe rotates in every 1 or 2 games, or every 3 or 4 games rather, to give Russell a break.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will play second base primarily. The Heroes are well stocked at shortstop. And I think just worryingly for the rest of the league, Park Byung-ho, who's been in and out of form and injury for the last number of weeks or so, he definitely looks like he's beginning to motor. He's beginning to find his groove again. He collected 5 RBIs against the Doosan Bears during the week, and he picked up another couple again today. He's beginning to hit home runs. He's hit 3 home runs this week alone. So when you add Russell's experience, big-time experience in Major League Baseball, to the likes of Park Byung-ho, Seo Gun-chan, Kim Ha-sung, who could well go to Major League Baseball next year, Lee Jong-hoon, this really looks like – I wonder is it too early to say this could be, like the final piece in a championship-winning jigsaw, but it definitely has to put them right at the top of the conversation.
Oh, definitely. It's going to put them, if not as favorites, it's going to cement their offense as one of the most terrifying things for any opposing team to walk up against. Because you look at the guys they've got, you'll have Russell, you'll have Seo Gong-chan, Park Byung-ho, Kim Ha-sung, you'll have Lee Ji-young, who can rake them as well, and then Kim Ha-sung, who's just been a phenomenal contact hitter, and Lee Jong-hoo. You've basically got a miniature murderer's row there for the first 6 or 7 hitters in the lineup.
Yeah, it's superb. As I said, it's scary, but it's brilliant. It's exciting. Heroes fans should definitely be excited about the potential for what this could mean for the team. Like, as we said in a previous podcast, we're not here to discuss anything else related to Addison Russell in terms of what he can offer on the field. This is a huge pickup for them. And then Hanwha Eagles, I really hope Barnes goes on to enjoy his time in Korea. Daejeon's a great city. They have a wonderful fan base if he will ever get to play in front of them. But there's not a huge amount to look forward to from a Hanwha Eagles point of view. Is there anything we can really expect from Barnes here other than maybe to try and play himself into a contract for next season?
Well, that's generally what happens when a guy comes in as a mid-season pickup. We saw it with Jerry Sands when he came into Kium a couple of years ago, that he just had a phenomenal season. Then they were trying to throw money at him to keep him to stay. But I imagine that's going to be very much what happens. Like, Brandon Barnes will arrive and they'll just say to him, right, here's the situation. We're trying to right the ship. We have a vision in mind, and this is what we want your role to be. So maybe his role will be to be a contact hitter, get on base, and give the other teammates an opportunity to get something. Or maybe he's going to be the cleanup guy, and hopefully he'll be able to kind of pick up where Jared Hoying left off. But we'll have to wait and see exactly what ends up happening with him.
Yeah, replacing Jared Hoying won't be easy. He is a firm fan favorite in Daejeon. Unfortunately, his time with the Eagles came to an end the way it did. But we wish him all the best, and good luck to the 2 new players who come over. Bradley, thank you for that demonstration. Are you excited by the prospect of seeing a former World Series winner and all-star playing in the KBO?
I think so. It definitely gives some attention to the team, which has already generated a fair amount. But I think it's interesting. I don't have my numbers. I didn't do my homework to see how many former World Series champions have played in the KBO, but I do not imagine that it is an extensive list. So I think it'll be very interesting to see. And I have said time and time again, a big factor in his success or failure will be his willingness to adopt to Korean culture. So we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely, and then we will have a third foreign player coming in soon enough as well, because the SK Wyverns cut ties with their injured pitcher Nick Kingham. That's from the Yonhap News Agency headline. Unfortunately, Kingham, who did start the opening day for the Wyverns, made only 2 appearances and hasn't appeared on the mound since May the 12th. He's had elbow issues, and according to Jiho Yu in Yonhap News Agency, no signs of improvement. So they are searching for his replacement. I won't take up too much of your time on this, guys, but we've talked again, over and over again, I think, since we brought the podcast back, about how the SK Wyverns are dealing with a very unlucky hand at the moment. They won the championship in 2018. They went into the last day of last season in contention for the top spot, which would have brought them straight through to the Korean series. And then since then, they've just completely nosedived. So Kingham is now gone, and they've already lost the pitchers from last year and Kim Gwang-hyun. It just feels like a team that needs 2020 to end already.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Like, I'd say that generally when we look at teams releasing players, they usually have someone in mind when they make the announcements. Like, it happened a couple of times previously where guys got released and their replacement was announced a day, 2 days, 3 days later. So I imagine the SK Wyverns wouldn't just release him unless they've finished the scouting process. So I'm imagining we'll probably see some announcement coming out of their front office over the next few days, just to say who the new player is and when we can expect the quarantine period to start. But that's another issue itself. Like, guys coming in now have an extra 2 weeks or so delay. So the more they wait to make that decision, the longer that delay becomes.
Yeah, indeed. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Nick Kingham. It must have been pretty exciting to pitch in the opening day of the KBO season, especially when it's your first year playing in this league. Clearly, the Wyverns thought so highly of him, but that's it. Unfortunately, he's gone. So as Matt was saying, we'll find out who the Wyverns are going to pick up, hopefully this week or so. Let's move on, guys, then, because we didn't get to go back and watch baseball this season. We thought there was a chance it could have been back on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We were looking for tickets. But then as the week went along, there were whispers that maybe the ballparks were not going to open up. And then there didn't seem to be any sort of an announcement. Nothing was really said or done. And then just like that, the games took place last Friday and nobody was in any of the ballparks. So the wait to bring back fans goes on. We've no idea when that will be, if it even will be at some point this season. So there's not a huge amount we can really say about that, but you both saw the proposals or what the KBO wanted to bring in to ensure fan safety in the ground and in the ballparks. What are your thoughts on what they wanted to do in regards to, like, no food from outside, and no matter who, even if you're going with a friend or a boyfriend or wife, whatever, you weren't able to sit beside this person. Any thoughts on what the KBO wanted to do to allow fans back in?
Well, I commend their efforts and their effort into trying to get fans back into the seats. I'm certainly not an expert of any sorts when it comes to disease or public health, but I had no problems with any of the restrictions that they were trying to apply. I'm just be happy to get back to baseball. I mean, when I go with my buddies to the ball game, we usually sit a space apart because we like to spread out. So I don't think I'd notice a big difference. But yeah, I'm willing to comply with any of those restrictions and policies that the KBO puts forward if it means I get to sit in a seat of one of the ballparks.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree.
anything else you think they might want to? I think a lot of people didn't expect some of these suggestions that came up. I understand not allowing people to drink at their seat, even though that's definitely a fun part of KBO. And as we talked about on ESPN during the week, that's part of the fan culture. I can understand why they just don't want to do that. And it's not like alcohol is banned. That seems to be a thing that people were really stuck up on, because they're still allowing people to drink in the concourses or outside the stadium, just not at your seat. Because obviously drinking at your seat increases the likelihood of just hugging a complete stranger during the pandemic. I can understand why they made that decision. So, like, if that does turn out to be a thing in the future where you just can't drink at your seat, you guys don't have an issue with that?
No, none whatsoever. If you want to drink a lot of alcohol and watch baseball, you can do it at home with a nice big Samsung television. But if you've got to give up drinking in your seat for a couple of weeks or months, so be it.
Nice big Samsung television with the beer chilled in your LG fridge.
Right.
Yeah, like myself, I don't see any issue with that either. Like, you go to the ballpark, and obviously the safety of others should be the primary concern. And that's why the league is waiting still, because there's still those mini clusters and small spikes of infection. Like, I think they were saying they wanted it to be consistently below, I believe it was 20, or it could have been below 50, or maybe even 10. But if it gets to that point where they just have a consistently low number and then they're able to reopen, then that's going to be a great time. But it makes a lot of sense, because if you have a glass of beer or whatever at your seat and then you sneeze or cough or something, those droplets are going to go everywhere. So it's one time where you're not actually going to have a covering because you have to pull down your mask to drink or whatever. So that just being allowed to have that will be able to just pull it away. So I'd like to see fans back in, but hopefully they do it at the right time when everyone can be safest.
Yeah, my only, I've had to nitpick a little bit in this. Like, as somebody who has to take the subway every single day in Korea and has to take a bus almost every single day as well, there's obviously no 1 meter apart. I know, like, you have to get people to and from work, but they were saying that, like, even in the concourse of the stadium, you'd have to be, areas where you're allowed to stand, you should stand this far away from the next person, especially if you're going to the concession stand or you're going to the bathroom. Because a lot of other aspects of life here in Korea, we just don't have to deal with those, or they're not enforceable. So I think it would be really difficult for them to police that when the ballparks do eventually reopen. I think not allowing people to drink will definitely be something they could do. They just throw you out. That's it. You're gone. I think a lot of the other ones, like, closing that gap of 1 meter or 1 seat between somebody else, it'd be difficult for them to police that at the beginning. But I remember Bradley was saying on ESPN during the week that he believes that Korean fans would conform to this, or they would listen to the advice of the medical authorities and the government and the KBO. And I do believe, in most part, I think it'd be very difficult to police. I don't think people will, like, go out of the way to break the rules, but it would just be, the sense of excitement. Like the NC Dinos game today, you're 6-1 down in the ninth, you win the game 7-6. It'd be really hard not to go crazy in the stands. So that's just, it'd be difficult enough for them to police that. But I wish them all the best in their efforts to do so.
I like the fact that they're giving people the opportunity to earn that trust that they're being given. It could potentially go entirely wrong, and there could be a surge in infections after one game. But hopefully the fans will respect the protocols and follow them, and then they'll be able to improve the experience for everyone else. Just because even if you have to sit a short distance away, there's nothing stopping you from, like, just cheering, having a good time, and then talking to your friend on the way out and saying what a great game it was, or talking in the concourse. Like, there are opportunities for that interaction, and it's just timing it, I guess. So I like the fact that the league is going to be giving people that opportunity, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Bradley?
My final thoughts on this are, and I wasn't there in the boardroom or in the Zoom meeting when these regulations were discussed, but if it keeps the people out that are only really there to drink and party and not follow the rules, well, then so be it. It makes it better and easier for the real fans to get their hands on their tickets. But, Yeah, good decision all around.
Yeah, I don't care. Even if they said there's no beer allowed, like, I just love to be in a baseball park again, just watching the game, especially now that the weather is, it's a bit hot, I guess, but it's kind of humid. But this is peak sitting outside, shorts and a t-shirt, watching baseball. I'm happy to follow any of these regulations that they want us to do. I just love to be there. And I guess it's the same issue now with football as well. Like, I know this is a KBO podcast, but I'd love to be able to go watch a football game this summer. But it's hard to know, even though they got bigger stadia in soccer, it's hard to know when we'll be able to go and do that as well. I don't want to sound too pessimistic here, but if somebody said to you, look, do you think this will happen this year? Like, very quickly, do you think there's a chance we will be back in the ballpark? With no medical expertise whatsoever, just a hunch feeling.
Yes, I do believe with regulations, fans will at some point, either in this season or in the postseason, be allowed in the ballpark.
Same. I think it may be another month while Seoul gets the next wave of infections under control, but I think it should be feasible by around about August.
Great. Okay. Well, we look forward to that. Hopefully, I think we're all dying to watch some baseball in Korea. Now we're going to move on to Hall of Fame Part 4.
If you like a lot of madness in your baseball, KBO. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, a section every week on the podcast where Andrew Farrell, Bradley Hyder, and myself nominate one thing that is loosely related to baseball, a person, place, thing, or abstract concept, and then we leave it up to you lovely viewers to decide which of us is right and which of our nominations deserves a place in our Grand Slam KBO Hall of Fame. So we have the results in from last week. Andrew Farrell last week nominated the MyKBO Facebook page and community. I nominated the cheerleaders, and Bradley Hyder pulled out his trump card and named Eric Thames. So, Bradley, would you like the bad news?
Yeah, give it to me.
So we managed to collect a massive number of votes this week. We ended up with how many total? We ended up with 28 votes total cast this week. Did you remember to cast your vote as well? I'll allow you to do that now. So we got a massive 30 votes this week. So with 3 votes taking up the final spot, we have Eric Thames.
3 votes for Eric Thames.
No, don't worry. I tagged the man himself, and he didn't respond to it either. So he's a very modest gentleman, and he deserves our respect.
I believe that, yes.
His day to shine will come. So coming up next with 13 votes, and in second place was MyKBO.
Scandalous.
Scandalous indeed. That's including the vote for Andrew Farrell that I believe you didn't cast again this week. Yeah. And the final one was, I feel kind of dirty accepting this, but it's 14 votes, and it's the cheerleaders for myself. So my vote originally was on MyKBO, and then I realized, hang about, I have a chance to actually win this. So I may have swapped my vote over from MyKBO to cheerleaders, and that 2-vote swing was enough to do it this week.
We're contacting the UN on this one. There has to be an investigation according to the voting practices here of Grand Slam KBO's Hall of Fame. So Danny,
should we just not vote ourselves then?
I know it wouldn't have made any difference in the end, because we're just minus 1 each. So you still would have. I guess you would have won, but yeah, the cheerleaders, they deserve a lot of credit and respect for what they're doing in these tough times. But here, come on, I'd like to know. Do we know who voted? You have the names of the people who voted here, don't you?
I do have the names for the ones who voted on Facebook anyway. And the Twitter ones, I'll have to try and look it up later. Who knows? Maybe some people double dipped on this. We'll have a recount later.
Including Pierre, Matthew.
Comma Matthew can't vote on his own thing on Twitter.
Okay. Right.
And
what's
remember,
up this week?
It's at Chimek Baseball.
Yes.
This week, we have a bit of a theme for what we're going for. This week, we're going for ballpark foods. So, Bradley Hyder, would you like to start with your nomination for this week's Hall of Fame to try and get your first point on the board?
Absolutely. I would like to nominate what is referred to in Korean as ojinga danggong. And for those of you who don't know, that is a popular snack sold really in any convenience store or supermarket in the country. But it kind of is a popular snack at ball games. It is basically a peanut in a spherical shell with squid flavoring. You're going to have to take my word on this. It tastes much better than it sounds. It is produced locally here by a snack and confectionery company, and they've been doing it since, I believe, the 1970s. So that is my vote for the Hall of Fame this week.
Nice, nice. Andrew Farrell, what's your nomination?
My one is less found in the ballpark, but more an experience post-game or even before the game. And that's just your quintessential, your regular, your beloved Korean barbecue, especially when it's samgyeopsal. I don't think there's anything better in terms of the culinary experience in Korea than sitting down with a few mates with a grill in front of you, and then barbecuing that delicious pork, and then add, get that piece of lettuce, and then add in your, kimchi and the manol, the garlic, and plus whatever other vegetables you have, and scrunch that up into a bowl and just eat that, and drink it all down with a delicious bottle of Cass or Height or whatever the particular restaurant is serving. So post game, leaving Jamshil Stadium at 9:30 on a Thursday night, making the short walk down to Jamshil Sene and pulling up a table at a traditional Korean barbecue restaurant and enjoying some samgyeopsal barbecue pork. I think it's one of the better experiences of living here in South Korea.
Well, I'll tell you what, there is actually a section of seating inside of Munok Stadium for SK Wyverns out in Incheon. And for anyone of you who are going to make the baseball pilgrimage out to Korea to go to a KBO game, if you can somehow get hold of those seats in the outfield, there are a few of them which have built-in barbecues where you can actually grill up samgyeopsal during the game. They've even got a little roof over you just to protect you from fly balls, or they'd be home run balls heading your way. Because it's a small park, and the SK Wyverns, they know how to rake them. So, my nomination for the Hall of Fame, we've had peanuts from Bradley Hyder. This one is an American staple that's actually made its way over to Korea in recent years with the Steph hot dog brand. However, it's not hot dogs as Americans would imagine them. I am going to be naming hotdogs as my Hall of Fame nomination this week. So, the way that Steph dogs work is basically you hollow out a baguette, put some cheesy sauce inside or some sour cream inside, and then you add the hot dog in the middle of the bun. Saves a lot of mess. You just carry that to the seat with you, have a beer with it. Glorious.
Yeah.
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Hot dog.
Food at ballparks in Korea, very different to not just ballparks around the world, but sporting stadiums. Any thoughts on what we can get? There are the regular things like the fried chicken, of course, we always talk about, your Burger King, burgers, etc. Outside the stadium, gimbap and octopus, some unusual choices for ballparks.
You can have the grilled butter squid as well. That's a lovely option. And in Jamshil, they started including sundae and kind of like a couple of fried things that you can get in cups to take to your seat as well. Those are some pretty cool options, like sundae dopap stuff, something like that.
Yeah, nice. Enjoy it all. Thanks very much for that, guys. Vote on Facebook and on Twitter, and let the whole world know that there should be an outrage over last week's vote, but we can redeem that by making sure samgyeopsal is voted top. So what do we have so far? This is week 4. So what are the previous 3 winners, Matthew? Can you remember?
The previous 2 winners that I nominated were Chimek and the Cheerleaders. I don't recall what the other one was. You'll have to remind me, because that was a very closely fought victory as well.
It was totally deserved. To be honest with you, I can't even remember either. What did I pick? What did I pick last week?
It was Thundersticks.
Wouldn't have remembered that if we're here for another hour or so. Okay, so
It's
Bradley,
right.
you need to pick up a winner here at some point.
Yeah, well, we've got to. Yeah, we're gonna have to do something about that. But take it one week at a time. You know, if I did have success last week, it was my predictions.
Yeah.
For the week.
Okay.
True enough.
I predicted my NC Dinos would win 4 games and lose 2, and they did just that.
Well, that brings us on nicely then to the upcoming series. I'm just going to wrap up our show now, but we should definitely have a chat about the games that are taking place this week. There are a couple of really good series coming up. First, what kind of stands out for you guys then? Which series are you most looking forward to between Tuesday and Sunday?
Matthew?
I am crazy excited to see what happens when a team that can't hit plays a team that can't pitch. So we're going to be having Lotte versus Hanwha early on next week. And hopefully the weather is going to be kind and allow more than one of those games to happen. But Lotte either are going to find their bats or Hanwha are going to find their pitching and find some offense in the later innings. And I actually could see Hanwha finally getting a series win.
Oh, that doesn't sound good for the Lotte Giants. Hyder, what are you looking for this week? What are you looking out for?
Well, watching my Dinos play the SK Wyverns, I'm not expecting much but a slaughter over those 3 games. So what I'm really going to be looking forward to is how the NC Dinos can take apart the LG Twins. That, of course, being the weekend series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Jam Shell right here in Seoul. So, again, we're going to have to see what the Dinos do to the Twins. I'm predicting another 4 wins, 2 loss week for the Dinos.
Okay, I think the series that very few people will be looking forward to takes place next weekend. That is the Hanoi Eagles in 10th spot hosting the SK Wyverns in 9th. They've already played each other 6 times this season, with the Wyverns winning 4 to Hanwha's 2. But you never know, as Matthew said, if they go and they take down the Lotte Giants in Daejeon, they got a series at home against the next team above them. So this is a really good opportunity for them, not just to win one series, but potentially to win back-to-back series in Korean baseball in 2020. 2 home series against the 2 teams directly above them in the table. It should be really exciting in a kind of a different way than maybe some of the other games are. I am looking forward to the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday series between KT Wiz and the Samsung Lions. They are right behind each other in 6th and 7th in the table. But the Samsung Lions could have gone to 4th today had they swept the LG Twins. They are 2 teams who are in the best form over the last 10 games in Korean baseball, and they go head-to-head in Suwon at the weekends.
That's going to be a good one. So you didn't tell us, though, Farrell. How many wins do you think Kia Tigers are going to get next week?
How many wins are the Kia Tigers going to get? Okay, so the Tigers start they're playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at home to KT Wiz. I think they're going to take the series, basing that on not a huge amount, but Kia have got good starting pitchers. As we saw today, they don't have a bullpen anymore. But I think they will take 2 wins off the KT Wiz in Gwangju. And then at the weekend, they get to host the Kiam Heroes. And I will be surprised if they win more than 1 game there. So I'm looking at 3 wins for Kia, but it could be as few as 2.
That'll be interesting. Like, for me, I think Lotte are going to have another rough week. I think they do have a chance at pulling it out against Doosan. They always seem to overachieve against one team specifically, and this year it does seem to be the Bears so far. But I don't know, just a sneaky suspicion says that they're going to lose the series against Hanwha. So I think Lotte probably end up finishing the week with 3 wins again.
3 wins again, okay. Bradley, you wanted to come in there with something else regards to SK Hanwha. Well, what is it you'd like to predict from that particular series?
Oh, I'd like to know what your prediction is, Andrew, between that battle of the basement. What we'll call it that. The SK Wyverns and the Hanwha Eagles. 3 matches. How many runs between those 2 teams? Or
wouldn't it be so funny if they were like really low scoring games because neither team's offense got going. There'll probably be a game in that series that ends like 12-9 or 12-10, a score like that. But I would say if the over-under type of thing was not to say 10 runs, I would say 2 games will finish with more than 10 runs in it. And maybe one will be a lower scoring game. So in total, it sounds like a nice, easy number, but maybe 30 runs in total for the entire series.
Okay, we'll have to see what happens next Sunday evening when we reconvene.
Yeah, so we're back next
Sounds like a
Sunday.
plan.
Yeah, before we go, a final reminder, guys, let the whole world know what your Twitter handles are, especially relevant because Bradley finally has one. Matthew, how can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Chimek Baseball. That's CHIMAEK Baseball.
Hyder, Bradley.
One long name, one word, Grand Slam Hyder, HIDER.
And you can find me at Grand Slam KBO. And you can find us on Twitter at the name as well, Grand Slam KBO. And we're on Facebook, Grand Slam KBO. And we're on. Where can you find our podcast online as well, please, Bradley?
Well, you can download the podcast and on your app at Spotify, Podcast Addict, and a place called iTunes. But we will be uploading this audio-only podcast to YouTube as well.
I think their viewers have seen enough of us at this point, although they are getting to miss out on a very special graphic that Matthew has made for the Grand Slam KBO podcast. But next time we have some videos, this will appear as the opener for all our videos from now on. A superb piece of graphic design, Matthew.
Thank you kindly. Look forward to it. It's going to be seeing its Grand Slam debut next week. Hopefully sometime around about Wednesday when the second video in the tier list series, or as it's going to be called, Grand Slam KBO Ranked, where I'm going to be having a look at every Samsung Lions uniform released since 1982 and giving it a lovely little grade.
Can't wait. Should be exciting. Boys, yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to everybody again here on a Sunday. We'll talk to you next Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks very much for having us. And is it Tuesday yet?
Take care, guys.
Have a great week. Goodbye.